better culture. What is psychological safety? Well, it is the sort of shared norms and values, and in an environment where people are not fearful to speak out. Yeah. So it's a culture basically where you feel comfortable enough to challenge a leader or to put forward an idea without a fear of being shot down, without fear of being publicly humiliated, or in any shape or form being punished for whatever behavior or things you do.
Yeah.
What it isn't is nicey, let's have a coffee and I'll be happy. And yeah, that's what it is not. It's definitely, it doesn't mean that you can get away with things. It doesn't mean that you can be not accountable. It doesn't mean that there is no structure and that there is no expectation of you with regard to performance. So psychological safety simply is a feeling of an individual feeling that you will not be shot down, humiliated, or punished for something that you say or do or challenge or bring to the table to work. In my view. What about you? What do you think it is? And what it's not?
Yeah, look, very, very similar. It definitely is. Very often people think it's all about goody. It's actually quite the opposite. It's about having courageous conversations. It's about being courageous to move into, I call them curly conversations, to address the elephant in the room, because the only way through conflict is through dialogue. Yes. And psychological safety, though, gives us the culture and the base of where we have trust as a base, so we can actually have courageous conversations, very much so.
Has it ever happened to you, Birthe, that you experienced that feeling? Because it happened to me. And why I'm passionate about it is because I have observed in the 40 plus years that I've been working in corporate. I have observed.
That was my next question to you, Sam. I wanted to ask you why you're passionate about it.
Sorry, but have you experienced it ever? I'll tell you about my experience, but what about you? Because I know you had a really great career as well.
Yes, I experienced it. And to be honest, in most teams, and I do believe that that's probably one of my biggest strengths, is to actually build the gel in teams. So I'm often, even if I didn't have the leadership role, I often was the one that started the movement of, hey, let's get to know each other a little bit better, because I have that innate curiosity of liking people. And I know not everyone does that. But my best team, one of my best teams was probably a few years ago, quite small teams with a HR consultancy in Sydney, where we were in a very small room with 5 people, and proximity is actually a big part of creating that psychological safety. And yeah, it was good because we got friends, even though we were from totally different generational and cultural backgrounds.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think lots of people would have, I'd wager to say more people would have negative experiences in the workplace than positive. That's also because we are negatively biased. But for me, I observe leaders, and I would say that leaders don't intentionally want to create unsafe environment. But I observe leaders put their foot in it all the time and make people feel unsafe. And when I say unsafe, it's not that it's your physical safety. Yeah, it is seriously just a feeling of, oh, I better not criticize the company. I better not say anything negative. I better not speak up. I better not, because people are fearful. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I heard the other day when I was talking to you about this stuff, and somebody said to me, but isn't the leader's job to drive out fear? That was a really, and I was thinking about it, and I'm thinking, no, it's not their job to drive out fear, because some fear is actually okay, because it's a stressor to make it. But I think it's good to drive fearfulness of speaking out. But it's good to keep some level of discomfort, because that creates, pushes people into more creativity, because, resilience and then resourcefulness happens when you don't have everything at your fingertips.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with that pushing, because when people are when we look at psychological safety and the framework that Amy Edmundson developed, you need two things in order to thrive.
Yes.
So that's kind of her framework, where she said, on the one scale here, on one axis, we need care, where we know that the leader has got our back and the peers have got our back.
Yes.
But on the other side, it can't just be goody-goody, because I never amount to anything. I never strive towards pushing myself and achieving. So I need expectation. So that's the second axis here in her framework, where we need high expectation and high care. And that would be the ideal state of psychological safety. So yes, high expectation. But if you were my employee, I'd say, Sam, I'll challenge you with this. I know it's out of your comfort zone, but I believe in you. I only do that because I have high expectation in you.
Yes.
And that's the difference.
100%. And I think I have only experienced that kind of leadership a couple of times in over 40 years. Most of the time it was like I'd be working with a leader, and I'd be kind of helping them grow up as much as they were helping me grow up.
That's not too bad. Actually, I'd love to hear, I'm just thinking it would be great to hear a few stories from our audience.
Yes.
Have they experienced psychological safety? That would be an easy yes or no question. Have you experienced it before? And the second question would be, what did it do for you? What, if you have experienced it before, how did that influence your motivation and engagement in your work and your organization? That's what I would love to hear from the audience. If you have experienced it before, how did that influence your engagement and your motivation in the organization?
So, and also, did it influence you in your next job? So if you experienced a negative psychological safety, when you went for your next role, did you make sure to ask the questions on what the leadership is like, what the culture is like, and all of that? Because when I was studying at Harvard, I think 10, 15 years ago, and there was a thing with psychological safety and stuff. And they said, when you experience toxic culture or a toxic leader, to be more precise, and toxic leader being defined as somebody who is dishonest and doesn't have your back, throws you under the bus, doesn't give you clear goals, and it's intentionally. Yeah, that's toxic. So it's not toxic unintentionally, but intentionally. It takes you probably about a year to 18 months to get yourself back into a normal state where you're not as fearful and when you're not triggered by certain situations or words and stuff. So
wow, just think of that, Sam. That is just wow, right? It's like a year wasted, a year of your own potential wasted, because your brain is always scanning, your sympathetic nervous system.
That's right.
Is always scanning for the next attack. And how much energy would that take too?
Exactly. But this is why I'm passionate about the subject of culture. It's because I have seen what it does to people. I have seen damage, and I have seen uplift as well when it's a good leader, good culture. And look, people are not perfect. People make mistakes, but an authentic leader will make a mistake and say, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And somebody who is toxic will not. And they will blame it on you or gaslight you or whatever it is that you've experienced.
All right, let's start with, I'm still waiting on the chat box here. I haven't seen too many from the audience sharing their stories. So I'm just going to repeat that question for those who are only just dialed in. Let us know if you have experienced psychological safety before, like great teams, great leaders and great teams. And what did that do to your engagement and your motivation? So if you want to share that with us, that would be great. And now, Sam, I'd like to jump into your 3-step strategy.
Oh, sure.
How to build it. If you're a leader and you want to get started, do you have to wait for HR, or what do you do?
Oh, HR is not there to teach you how to build teams and cultures. They can help you with some advice, but it's not, you cannot outsource that. Yeah. So as a leader,
what's your first step?
The first step is to really look inwards into yourself and understand your own biases, your own fears, and then seek feedback from people that you trust, or you do a 360, or you get a coach. and seek that feedback to understand what is your baseline, where are you coming from. So your biases, you might have them. You may have been triggered by a toxic boss before, or whatever, or you may have picked up some bad habits along the way. So it's really important to do that. And with your team, you have to encourage your team, individuals in your team, to also do that. So don't see 360 as a privilege of leadership. Do it for yourself and do it for your whole team, because then you have the baseline, and then you get to know the people in your team, you get to know yourself. Where is that gap, and how are we going to close it? I think Maya Angelou,
it's a bit like a check-in for exercise, like a fitness test, right? Like you would have fitness. It's like, where do I start? Am I already here? Then I can add here. Or am I right at the bottom and I start with a 5-minute walk around the block? And I guess that's where we need to have an honest feedback. Where are we at? And
somebody said that the video dropped out. Somebody said, David Sveck said the video dropped out.
Oh. It's for me, it's okay. I'm still here.
As well.
Can someone else let me know in the chat if the video is still on for them?
Because they said the video's dropped out.
Yes.
Thanks, David.
All right. So for me, it's still going. Can anyone else here just say it's still okay in the chat box for us, so we know we are still live? Beauty of technology.
I know. It was supposed to make our life easy. So baseline is really important, to get the baseline right. And then I always repeat that saying from Maya Angelou. She always said, when you know better, you do better. Yeah.
That is a good one, right? Once you know. But that also would mean, I did for sometimes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
If
you know better, you do better. So I guess when it comes to the baseline, what we need to do as leaders is be vulnerable and be ready for the uncomfortable truth that our team might not be looking at a very good state right now. So I think that's a big one too, isn't it?
But it's your inward looking will then reveal, where are your insecurities, and where do you get triggered? Because there's nothing worse than you saying, well, let's all do the 360 and stuff, and then somebody challenges you in the meeting and you go into complete defensive, or somebody criticizes the company and you go into a defensive. So part of that, what you can do is actually allow people to say things without going into defensive, purely listening, and you can prepare then your responses later individually, one-on-one, rather than either in a meeting or so. That's the psychological safety, is that people know that they can say. The second one is really about a leader setting the scene, especially if you're a new leader, you're coming. That's your opportunity to reinvent yourself and to sort of start on a good note. But even if it's your old team and you're listening to this chat that Birthe and I are doing today, what you can do is you can start with establishing, for example, meeting networks. And I know an amazing lady called Birthe Northern who can give you some really good tools for that. She gave them to me, and they work for teams. You need to really, as a leader, honor differences in your team. So your diversity is really important. The more diverse your team, and you need to understand where people are coming from. So it's not about being goody-goody and, going over. It's just really understanding where people are coming from, where they at. And that 360, if you encourage your team to do it, they will give you that information as well.
Yeah. Can I just add to that, just as, because I find one of the biggest mindset shifts for leaders has to be that conflict is an opportunity and not a threat. There is always conflict. We can't shy away. As soon as you have two people, boy, there will be conflict. And that word landmines popped into my head a couple of weeks ago, where there's so many landmines. It could be the generational gaps, right? Young and old, like ways of working, ways of thinking completely different. Then we have cultural differences. The way things are said, like I'm German, I sometimes offend people by being too direct, for example.
Hello, you're talking
scared of me. People were scared of me because they said, I look into the eyes for too long.
Yeah.
So, that's great feedback because I would never know. Then we have personality types. Of course, personality types, you've got the analyst and the creative, and they butt heads. So landmines, I think, are everywhere. And what you're mentioning here is bring it out. Like
Yes.
set the scene, voice the elephants in the room. Gosh, yes, there will be conflict, but how do we walk through it and set rules and expectations so people know what's going to come? And
100%.
right, and the more there is rules, the less there is a personal attack. I mean, how often do we first personally offended when someone says, stop talking? But if we have a rule that says, I do this, and that means you've been talking for too long.
Yeah, that's right.
It's personal. Yeah.
That's right. That 100%, you are spot on. You are spot on. And on that topic as well, then once you know that, so you're aware of cultural difference, you understand the landmine, you're aware of the landscape and the landmines in the landscape, and then play on people's strengths. Don't give a presentation to an introvert because you will damage the person. They will not thank you for it. You will be pushing people out of the comfort zone is okay, but not really to their detriment. So, if you want to help somebody be better at public speaking and you know that they're introvert, baby steps are the place, let them present to people that they know, people in the team or something like that, and slowly build that muscle rather than, oh no, I believe in you, I'm just going to push you in front of the board and you go present. And the person is petrified, right? So that, and I think for me, trust is fundamental. And how do you build trust? I think we did a talk on building trust a couple of months back. So whoever's interested can look at that talk. But it's building that feeling that a person will not betray you at work. That you can trust them with information, you can trust them with your private information, you can trust them with project information, you can trust them with whatever it is, but that there is a trust between you and your leader, knowing that you are safe. So trust is about safety.
Yes.
You trust the pilots to fly you somewhere. You trust an Uber driver to drive you somewhere. So you need your team leader. You need to trust them to lead you where you need to go. Sorry, Robin Gifford is just asking, is there a specific 360 you find most useful for psychological safety? Well, you can do the Amy Edmundson assessment. She has a particular one for psychological safety, and you can find it on her website on the Fearless Organization. But I think might be better maybe to combine that one with something like the Leadership Circle or any really 360, because that will give you a good baseline. But Amy Edmundson has a really good one. McKinsey does a few, and they do a bespoke, but they are very expensive. So
yes.
Just say.
Yeah.
Love McKinsey.
And I like to combine it with personality tests as well. It was, if you want to go very basic, at least the DISC will definitely spark a good discussion in the team, or Myers-Briggs, where we then we understand, oh, that's why you don't get it when I say that.
That's right.
Very much so. Yeah. So just on the trust, I just remembered something that Silvia Damiano said when we did the interview with her, and we might pop the link here in the chat as well to that video that we did probably 3-4 months ago. She mentioned one example where a leader was having trouble with the trust in his team, and he had a habit of going out for lunch with his best mates. So, he was elevated, he was promoted, and he would continue going out with the same people he always went out with. So it wasn't even a bad intent, but the rest of the team interpreted that as, oh, he likes these 3 people better, so we are treated less favorably. Yeah. So these things can come out in a 360 where you're not even intentionally trying to be a bad leader. But when I work in Germany, for example, It's a really great habit of especially family-orientated companies that the boss goes around each desk, that was before COVID, and shakes hand with everyone.
Mhm. Yeah.
These are the little belonging cues. Every morning, the boss sees me, he's approachable, I can talk to him, and he values what I do.
Mm.
So these are belonging cues that are being sent on a regular basis.
It's just important also to understand that, we give this advice and then people go about it sometimes out of good intent in a wrong way. So, people will then go and send messages to people and then overwhelm them. And then it comes across as inauthentic because they are kind of going through the motions rather. If it's not your natural inclination to do that, then you better not force yourself because people will know that you are forcing yourself. It's not coming from the heart. Believe it or not, people read your energy much more than what you do and what you say. So you can say whatever you like, but your energy, your energetic field, your facial expressions, your micro expressions, they will tell a different story. So unless everything is congruent, that it'll come across as fake and it will not be effective. Yeah. So if you are going to implement any of the strategies we are talking here today, then make sure that you really mean them and they're coming from your heart. Yeah. From authentic place in yourself rather than, oh, this is a management technique and I'm just going to do that, because that doesn't gel.
Yeah, and people will feel that, right?
People know.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, people know that. I'm just a bit distracted with the video. I see that George is saying the video is running at 17 minutes. So I don't know if we are actually,
I don't know
the
either.
audience is 10 minutes behind us at the moment.
Well, we can talk.
Oh well, we just talk. So
Right.
so we had your first step was the baseline, see where you're at. The second one is make it explicit that you want to do something about it. And set the scene, for instance, with meeting rules of how we're going to work together in meetings so people feel more comfortable in speaking up. And probably one meeting rule is make sure everyone says something at the beginning of a meeting.
Yeah.
Which again cracks that ice and people feel more empowered to speak and contribute for the rest of the meeting. There's actually research that shows us that it's far more likely that they will contribute when they say something at the beginning of each meeting.
That's right.
What do you think about this? As a leader, I know you're very busy. What do you think is the biggest blocker in creating psychological safety for a leader? Because I have 4 answers and I want you to pick one. So what could be some of the reasons why you should not do it? One thing is make it a priority. Basically making time for it and maybe not making it priority. The second one is you don't have enough knowledge. Can that hold you back? Yeah. The third one, could it be a fear of getting it wrong?
Mm-hmm.
And the fifth one might be anything else, maybe hybrid workplace or anything like that. So priority, make time for it. Is it the knowledge that leaders don't have and don't know how to start? Is it a fear of getting it wrong or anything else?
It's all of the above. I think mostly it depends where on the evolutionary leadership scale you at. Yeah. So if you're a new leader, you may not have the knowledge. You may not even know the term psychological safety. You may not have read the literature. You doesn't know what it means. And you just think, oh, well, I'm just going to get on with it. And, it's all about the tasks and it's all about the performance. And that's fine. You can learn if you're willing. You have to be open and willing to learn. Yeah. The busy piece in my mind is a cop-out. It's I can't be bothered to do that because I have much more important things to do, like sit on the board and develop strategy and stuff. So couldn't care less about my team, really. They'll get on with it. After all, I pay them to do that, right? So I know this sounds very harsh and controversial, but I have met a few leaders like that. The third one is kind of they don't have the tools. They're willing, but what do I do? Tell me what to do. And making it a priority is why would I? So nobody does anything without a big why. You have to start it. Why would I want to invest in this? So they don't know how much of an impact they have on the team that doesn't feel safe and secure. Because when you have a good team that is feeling safe, and there is banter, there is stuff, there is camaraderie, there is everything is going on for them, then
that's
your question?
That's a big one. Sorry, say that again.
All of the above.
All of the above. So from if you would recommend a leader to do, one thing is baseline, we said that, but then how do they actually start? What would be the first thing you would do as a leader? Or two things, because we know from Atomic Habits, trying to do everything at once won't work.
No.
Where would you start?
I would start with meetings. I really would start with meetings, and I would start with my individual conversations with the team, probing questions, trying to find out where people are at. But I would really also go to my colleagues that I trust and sort of say, okay, how do you think I'm doing? Are you hearing anything and I don't want to know names, but are you hearing anything? Is the team doing okay? Am I doing okay as a leader? So frequently we don't stop to do that. But I would start with meetings, small actions in meetings that are like, if somebody says something and you want to respond, bite your tongue and just let them speak. It's like, you don't have to respond to everything. And as a leader, you don't know everything. So try to give people space to air stuff, even if you don't like it.
That's right. That's a big one, right? That's a really big one, to have that awareness and stop yourself, that's, I guess, one other question.
What you can actually say in these meetings, you can say, how does the team feel about it? Are there any other observations on this? So give other people an opportunity to speak that bonds the team together, rather than you constantly talking.
Absolutely. Help me understand is one of my favorite go-tos. Help me understand. What would you do? Help me understand why you say that, so I can see your point of view. That's always one of my favorites.
That's
great. So we've got number 1, we've got number 2, which is make it explicit and setting the scene. And now what would be number 3?
So once you get to the team into the space where they feel fine with each other, and don't forget, teams change all the time, cultures change all the time, leadership changes. So you have to constantly work at it. So you have to maintain it. It's not a one and done. It's a continuous and consistent process. So you got to be consistent with it. And you gotta reward behaviors that you want to drive. And by reward, I don't mean give them movie tickets. I mean in different ways. And you've got to nip the negativity in the bud in the team. And when I say nip negativity, it's not about nipping comments about the company. So people have to feel safe to say negative things about a project or a company or whatever. It's about gossiping about one another. It's about backstabbing. It's the horrible things that sometimes happen in teams. It's people who are trying to curry your favor, and they will come and give you information about somebody else. You've got to show such integrity, and you have to say, I am sorry that in this environment, we don't do that. And you have to be able to say that. Again, do it one-on-one. Don't do it publicly. Public flogging doesn't do anybody any favors.
Yes, flogging definitely not. Flogging definitely not. What I'll do when I facilitate meetings, for example, I do a lot of leadership development trainings, and when people come back into the room on time, I say, thank you for being here on time and honoring your time and my time. But then 5 people might not still be missing, right? So also praise the good behavior, bring it out. So people want to do more of the good behavior.
That's it. So but you have to be consistent with this. You cannot You cannot let it slide, not even once. It's like trust. Remember when we talked about trust? It's like a bank account where you
Yes.
deposit, but you make one withdrawal, it goes back to zero. So it's the same deal here.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
consistency is the key.
It's like, again, like exercise.
Yeah.
When you stop, you do your 6-week challenge, you feel on top of the world, you think everything is great.
And then you
go
stop.
back on the sofa and you go, oh, this is a nice Netflix show. And guess what? Your body flops back, right? And
yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. Exactly right.
same thing. I'd love to hear from our audience.
Yes.
What has been some of your best tricks if you are a leader? And as you are here, I would say that you are interested in psychological safety. What are some of your tricks that you can share with the rest of the community here that work well? And I'm hoping that we are live on the same
Me too. I'm hoping so. Yeah.
same one as the rest. So let's wait a little bit here to see if anyone here has a tip. What would you like to, what worked well for you to create psychological safety in your teams? Maybe some tips you learned from yours. And as we're doing that, I just wanted to share a story in terms of psychological safety that happened to me. So back in Germany, I worked for a travel company. It was my dream job. We were a wholesaler selling 2 weeks holidays to Spain and other European countries.
Nice.
Now, the interesting thing was the boss, the CEO and owner and founder of the company, he was a bit of a, I shouldn't really say that, but he was mentally challenged. Yeah. So whenever we were asked to come into his office to report on anything that we were doing, we would always ask the secretary first and go, what's the mood today?
Yeah. I had bosses like that. Oops.
Yeah. So that leadership level was a real challenge. However, I loved my job and I loved my team because my daily experience was shaped by team. Yeah, the daily belonging cues were from my team. And then I had a direct leader that was in between the CEO, who was a great leader.
Yeah.
So just to say, it doesn't even if you say the CEO doesn't agree with it, we can create beautiful culture in separate teams within the organization. This is something that we talked about previously, not today, but previously, where you said it really is culture is team first, and not organization. Can you speak to that?
So culture, in my view, is not, when we say Google culture, it's not Google culture. It's tribes within Google that create their own little microcultures in each tribe. So if you have the critical mass of positive tribes that are driving positive behaviors, you would say that company has a good culture. But if your critical mass is more on the negative side, where the negative behaviors, such as, throwing you under the bus, late with projects, spending money, lies, dishonesty, then you have what we call a toxic culture. Yeah. So culture is basically how we do things around here. Now, nobody does that on a large scale. In a huge organization of 1,000 people or 10,000 people or 100,000 people, it goes down to those units where you have teams of 10, 20, 30, whatever. Those teams are then creating culture. Yeah. So we are tribes. We are tribal, always have been, always will be. It starts with a small unit, and then it's the cities have the culture. So the critical mass in the city, if you have a crime rate that's over 40%, city is unsafe.
Yes.
You would have pockets of good places, but it'll be mostly unsafe. Same with companies, same with families. If you have critical mass in your family where, more of your family members are negative than positive, you would have a toxic family. Yeah.
Yes.
Same with the toxic team, with the toxic culture, but it's largely driven by a leader of that unit.
Yeah, I really, really like that. I really, really like that. It's the leader of the unit, not the organization. That's because that's what you hear a lot. Yeah, we are told very much so. Culture comes from the top, and they do influence a lot, but you don't have to wait for them.
No,
We've really
but
done it well.
we have also exited the era of a hero leader, where you have a leader like, I don't know, Steve Jobs, or, and then you have this hero leader and everybody's going, so we exited that era. That era is gone. That is not on anymore. We now have leaders of these units, and you have a leader at the top who is, it's the board and the leader, and they do have an influence, but they're not. The hero culture is gone.
Yeah, that's a good point. When you talk about the tipping point, or did you call it tipping point? You talked about
like tipping point or critical mass, whatever you
critical
want to call
mass. That's right. You said critical mass. My brain heard tipping point. So what do you think when you look at 0 to 100? Where would be the tipping point where, if I have so many great teams that are actually getting on really well versus the ones that don't, what are you aiming for?
Yeah, so for me, it would be at least 75% positive to be the tipping point for a great team, because the 25% you will work on. So there will be some that, if there is 75% favorable, then the negative elements will spit themselves out. They will self-select out, because it won't be a thriving culture for them. And same goes for negativity. If there's 75% negative, the positive people will leave because it's just not comfortable. But where I think it kind of becomes dangerous is at that 40% mark. That's when you have an opportunity to build an amazing team by instilling the good habits and good behaviors and being consistent and driving fearfulness out, but keeping discomfort in a little bit, to sort of encourage that lively debate. And you know what I mean? Yeah.
I love that. I think that's going to be a line I'm going to put online later. Driving fearfulness out, but leave the discomfort in.
Leave it
really
in.
Clever.
Leave it in.
Very
Yeah.
clever.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. All right, beautiful. We're coming to the end of our time, and I do think that our audience has been challenged, and is probably 10 minutes behind us.
Yes.
But that's technology. We got to run with it, right? So let's close it with maybe one quick summary.
Yes.
Let me bring up
the key actions. Yeah.
So the key actions, in summary, what we said today. Let's take out the banner. Was the 3 strategies is seek feedback to find your baseline. Who am I? Where am I at the moment? Secondly, setting the scene. Tell people we've got to do something about it. It's going to be explicit. That's what we're striving for. And this is what good looks like.
Yeah.
And then thirdly, keep at it. Keep at it.
I love it. Yeah.
Keep at it. Yeah. Keep at it. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And then for anyone who likes to find out more, for anyone who thinks, I want us to get going and I just need a little bit of help to start, please reach out to Sam or myself. This QR code here will bring you to my Calendly link. And you can book in a 30-minute discovery call, and we can discuss how we can help to get you started, maybe with a 360, maybe with a strategy, or maybe straight into action. We see where your baseline is and take you from there. Any closing words from you, Sam?
I think the team talks that Birthe has, her business does an amazing job with actually teaching people how to do these things. So I encourage you all to reach out to her for sure. If you're looking more for one-on-one conversations, and I am challenging, let me tell you, so then you can reach out to me. But Birthe has a fantastic toolkit and a fantastic approach to building teams.
Thank you. That's so nice. And for everyone here who dialed in live and on a Friday afternoon, thank you so much for your interest in the topic. Please put a comment in the chat below. What was your biggest takeaway today? And hope to see you again at another time.
Bye, everybody. Have a lovely weekend.
Bye.
Bye.